So that was to get you in the mood a little bit. I listened to that today, and that is What's the Buzz is what I'm going to tell you the rules, not the rules, there's no rules, but the outline of the night tonight. It's a little bit different because we all get to talk this time. It's kind of cool. But in between us talking are some really exciting things. We're going to actually start off with Phyllis, who is going to talk a little bit about synesthesia, which is something that I don't know a whole lot about, but she's gonna like put it together with artists and music and all of that. So that's gonna be about 5 minutes. And then throughout the evening, Julia will be doing exactly what she just did, and she will be taking the music that all of us sent in and doing little clips of them throughout the night. And in between that, we're going to have, there's going to be 4 times she'll do that. So there will be 4 times that we'll have sections of things that we will talk about. If you don't want to talk about it, fine. I don't care. Just sit there and listen. Otherwise, you know, it's open to everybody. There's no format or anything like that. So I am recording tonight again. If you have any questions for Phyllis, you can save them to the end or raise your hand or whatever. It's free for all tonight. Do what you want. So Phyllis, without further ado, have at it.
Hey, hi everybody.
Hi, Bill.
Let me see. Okay, it says you cannot start screen sharing while the other participant is sharing.
Oh, let me stop my share. That makes sense.
Actually, I could also do it so multiple participants can share.
Oh, well,
So
I'll just start sharing after anyway.
Okay.
Okay, you know, I don't think I made this clear yet, Virginia. I'm not actually talking about synesthesia, except in the case of Kandinsky. I'm more talking about, okay, can everybody see that?
No, not yet.
Now?
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm more talking about attempts to draw or paint music itself, which this is my first example of, as opposed to other ways of looking at this subject, which would be, you know, music. There's so many paintings in which music is being played or instruments are being, you know, presented. And there's also a lot of music that simply inspires artists. One of the quotes I liked is I was doing a little reading that called this music as fertilizer. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the finished artwork, but it is fertilizing you as you go along. For example, you know, Jackson Pollock liked to listen to Dizzy Gillespie. Now, you know, does that have anything to do with the finished work? Probably, but it's hard to put your finger on it. But these are people who actually tried to paint or draw music, and in one final case, sculpt. And if you're like me, the first person that comes to mind is Kandinsky. And this Kandinsky is called Composition Number 7. Kandinsky famously did have a rare form of synesthesia. He heard colors. When you look at these, he heard colors. So when he was listening to music, he saw colors associated with that music. And when you're, you know, looking at many of these Kandinskys, I don't think all, but certain ones certainly. Let me show you another one. Here's another example of that, which is very different, but almost as wonderful, called Transverse Line. And the second person who came to mind was Paul Klee. And Paul Klee, let's see, let me pull the first one of his up. Okay, everybody see that?
Yeah.
Paul Klee almost became a musician. His father was a music teacher. His mother was a singer. He was a violin prodigy. He played in an orchestra in his early 20s in Bern. But for some reason, he turned his attention to the visual arts. And I think, you know, we're all better off for it. at least as far as I'm concerned, he's definitely like sort of in my top 5. This piece is called In the Style of Bach. So this is this is how he felt when he was listening to Bach. And the second one I'd like to share is actually my favorite piece from all of these that I came up with. Some of you may have seen this. They have it at NOMA. It's called The Vocal Fabric of Singer Rosa Silber. And I just think the idea of trying to present a singer's voice visually is just so wonderful. And of course, it has all that, amazing delicacy. It has to be seen this is a piece that has to be seen in person.
How big is
It's not that big. I mean, I can't, maybe 14 by 18, something like that. Clay worked relatively small. In most of his pieces, he didn't really do much large scale work. One of the quotes that I loved from him was he said, "Only with music have I always been on good terms," which I think is very sweet. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting texts. Let me. Okay, next, we're going to jump to an American artist. This is Romare Bearden. Now, some of you who might have been lucky, I was lucky enough in 2005 to see his National Gallery of Art exhibit. They had a major exhibit of Romare Bearden's work. His work is synonymous with jazz. So much of his work has to do with music. And this is called Three Folk Musicians. This is it's a collage. A lot of his work was collage. And with Romare Bearden, you saw a lot of back and forth relationships going on. He was inspired by music, and then musicians in turn were inspired by him. So a lot of musicians, including people like Charlie Parker and Donald Byrd and Wynton Marsalis, have written work specifically about Romare Bearden's work. And at the same time, he writes things. He did album covers, and he responded to particular jazz musicians' work. So I just love his work. Okay, here's one more. I don't know why I always think I have to have 2, but there's always so many good examples that it's very hard to choose.
Yeah, you have like 1 more minute, Phyllis.
Okay, I'm to the last artist, and I'll do it fast. Robert Rauschenberg. Now, he was involved with that wonderful group of creative people, Jasper Johns, Merce Cunningham, and John Cage. And of course, one of them was a choreographer and one of them was a composer. So this is actually an attempt to make a musical instrument. So this is called the music box. You pick it up and you shake it. And every time that happens, a different piece of music is created by the rocks inside there, making little, making noise when they hit the rusty nails. And I don't know why the feather's there, but it looks good. And finally, and this is a wild one, we've got, this is called Oracle. This is a found metal sculpture, and the sculptural elements, it looks like just a found metal sculpture, but the sculptural elements pull sound from wireless transistor circuitry, which is in, hidden in this piece. And so this is a musical instrument in a way. And I think it's really cool. I would love to see it sometime. And those are the examples that I came up with by way of an introduction. So let's move on.
Thank you, Phyllis.
May I make a comment here?
Of course.
A brief one so that we can get onto the
Okay.
discussion. part.
It's just I've attended almost every Romare Bearden show anywhere East Coast, and I happened to meet him he was at the BMA, but he had a small exhibition of watercolor at a famously Black college in Baltimore, and everybody was getting him to sign their autographs because you couldn't get near him at the BMA. And I walked up and he held out his hand for whatever I wanted him to sign, and I rolled it over and read his poem. He put his arm around me and we went over into a corner and chatted. And we found we had so much in common that he invited me to the dance concert. His wife had a dance company. And I spent the rest of that day and evening with him, and we corresponded since maybe the mid 80s until his death. Just a fascinating man and very active in the Harlem Jazz Society.
Cool.
Thank you, Linda. That's way cool.
Thanks for that story. All right, Julia, let's go do a little bit of music. These are 3. You chose 3 at a time? Okay, so 3 people's choices.
3 at a time.
Just clips of them.
Okay, hold on. Give me a thumbs up that you can hear it when I play it. Thumbs up?
No. Can't
Oh,
hear.
no.
No.
Oh, hold on one second.
I think you need to share your screen again.
Yeah. Slight difficulties. Okay, I think I'm in now.
I'm in New York City.
That was our first. So everyone knows that song. The next one is probably a song most of us know too. Some of these songs I've kind of jumping into the middle, so. And one more for
I have
now.
to harmonize with all these things. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's encouraged in this talk, I think.
Exactly.
Back in the day when things were cool, hey, all we needed was da ba 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 da. Hey, oh ba 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 da. Where, sunflower, take me flying with you.
I wanted that last one to go on longer.
I know it, but I could listen to the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Julia, why don't you put in the chat the names of the chat to everybody, the names
Okay.
of who and songs, because that last one was one that I might look up.
Okay.
So I am incapable of not moving when music is happening. I
hear you, sis.
Yeah, it can't happen. So the first question, the thing to get us started, which is sort of the overall question and the reason why we started to do some of these songs, is what do you listen to in the studio? Do you listen to sound? Do you listen to no sound? If you listen to no sound, do you have something going on in your head all the time? Do you make your own sound that way? If you listen to sound, do you listen to music, to words, podcasts, books, music, all the, there's a variety of music. Picking just one for this was pretty impossible. So, you know, I mean, I have such a wide variety. So I'm just going to open it up to people and see what you say. What kinds of things do you listen to in the studio?
I'm a very musical person. I studied classical voice when I was in my early 20s, and you know, I've sung in choruses since I was a little kid and all that kind of stuff. So music is kind of a big part of my life, kind of always has been. So part of my ritual when I start working, when I start painting, is that I put music on. I either put a Pandora station on, or else I, you know, have a CD player over in the kitchen with good sound and listen to that. And it's it kind of gets my energy up, which is why I do it. When I was going through a time, I'll tell you, when I was having a hard time working, you know, we all go through these slumps, right? And what I would do is I would light this little candle under this little oil infusion thing, you know, to sort of create this scent, and I would put on music. So I sort of had this little ritual that I would go through. You know, you do step one, you know, the candle, and you step two, the music, you know, and then you are prepared, and then you start, you know, because it was just too hard to start cold. But I often listen to music, and it's often music with some energy behind it. You know, you'll tell from the selections that I offered up. And sometimes I have to stop, like you might, Virginia. I don't know. I have to stop and get up and dance, because I can sit here for hours and hours. You know, I get so right brain, and I'll just be painting, and I'll be painting, and I'll be painting, and I didn't even realize that my legs have fallen asleep, and I'm painting and painting, you know, and then something really good comes on that's like, oh yeah, I have to get up and dance to it, which is really good, because I'd have blood clots in my legs otherwise. So.
Who else wants to chime in? Gary.
Yeah, I should add that you were talking about moving and Caroline, but one of my main goals in life, my two main goals, is to go through my entire life without never having to fast dance. And I think I'm going to make it.
Gary.
I'm very happy. Yeah. I don't dance, sorry.
Well, I do dance, and I often start off my studio day with my version of a bar class on one of my high counters or something, because I'm a sculptor. I'm wielding hammers, I'm using tools, I'm a very physical artist. So
Right.
you got to warm up somehow, or you'll get kinks and cramps and things aren't going to work right. So especially since I usually begin in the morning, often I'll start off dancing or exercising to music. And then once I'm warmed up, depending what part of my process I'm in, I'll go to a talking book. Like right now, I'm listening to James Rollins. I've got 14 out of a series of 24 under my belt. High adventure, ancient mysteries with contemporary times. And then I have to cut all sound off when I'm pricing and cataloging. I can't multitask when I'm doing that.
Yeah, I can't listen to things with words in them when I have to deal with words. If I'm doing like graphic design and I wind up editing or something, I can't do anything with words. It's just like too much of a conflict.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I personally need a lot of input into like all my senses. I have a brain that's been inundated with memes and the internet from a young age, and I love listening to music that has words, rap music or podcasts or anything that will keep me continually engaged, I guess. And that's probably the opposite of a lot of other people here. You know, some people are probably more meditative than that.
Lisa? Lisa, are you muted?
I think she's muted.
No, she's not.
React to the words too much, and I have to listen to music. If I listen to anything at all, I have to listen to music that's either wordless or in foreign languages,
Mhm.
or although even the, like, I really love African drumming, chant work, and if you listen to them, you learn the words. And so if something is really energetic, like outside of the studio, I adore banjo music. Like Steve Martin is one of my favorites, old-timey music, but I don't get any work done because I will just be singing. So instead, if I listen to music at all and not just my own thoughts, I have to find stuff that's ethereal and
Hey, Lisa, we can't hear everything that you're saying. Can you?
Get a little closer to your mic, maybe.
but so instead I go for stuff that's going to put me sort of otherworldly
Interesting.
and in a trance-like state to work. But that doesn't work when I'm working with the metal and glass because I'm making too much noise. So I just don't listen to anything.
Yeah.
But
I found it interesting when we were getting this talk together that Julia talked about putting music in her ears, you know, like the idea, I mean, yeah, we've had earphones and stuff for a long time, but I think that Julia's, you know, generation, everything goes directly into the ears. It's not necessarily out there. It's like, you know, constantly putting the stuff into her head immediately. And I just thought that that was an interesting difference in, you know, in concept of music and thought and auditory stuff within generations.
That would make me crazy.
You know,
I like to be in contact with my
in
ears.
Carlos Santana's Game of Love, who's the singer? Michelle Lake? Is it Michelle? Who's the singer with Carlos Santana? Michelle Lake or something. And that video and that song, it's so interwoven. His guitar playing and her voice is so perfect in laced together. I think sometimes, as Lisa alluded to, you can get into movement. If I'm putting down black, very thick paint on a piece, I'll be listening to very rhythm music. And so it kind of takes you over and you almost get into this trance. And you're a 17-year-old and then you're a 60-year-old and you're that combination of movement, but you're not thinking, you're just moving, but you're thinking, and it's very exciting until you look at what you're doing. But it is, it's a very exciting period sometimes, how it takes you out of yourself.
Did you say Cindy Blackman? No.
No, I was talking about Carlos Santana, Game
Right.
of Love, and Michelle, I can't think of her name, who's the singer on that song.
Hang on. Yeah, Michelle Branch? No.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
there we go. All right. Thomas, what do you listen to when you step? You have various loud machines in your studio. What do you do with all of them? Can you?
I mean, a lot of times I'm making too much noise. I really can't hear anything else, and I have, you know, hearing protection on. But when I'm in my studio, I generally use music to create energy. So I listen to fast music and sometimes very repetitive music like Philip Glass and those kinds of things. But outside of the studio, I agree that music is more, for me, is more fertilizer in ideas. Whenever I go, and it's been a long time since I've been to a concert or a performance, but I get very many visual ideas when I'm listening to live performance. So I really enjoy that. And then when I'm outside of the studio, I can also experience it, but usually it's with live performance. But when I'm in the studio, I mostly use it to get me going and to put me maybe in a more happy mood and give me energy. So that's what I do.
Should I do another 3 songs?
Yeah, do another.
Would that be a
Yeah.
good time?
Yeah.
I'm trying to juxtapose different styles next to each other. So with that in mind. That was very calming.
Mhm.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. That was Hildegard
there-
von
yeah.
Bingen, Canticles of Ecstasy, the album.
Of course.
I'll put that in the chat. Here's the next one. Okay, and one more. Again, quite different.
I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. You don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Mhm.
3 more examples of what various NOMA artists listen to in the studio.
Mhm.
That would be, all 3 would put me in a totally different mood, which
I
is
know.
sort of actually my second question. So, and some of you have sort of connected with that question before, but I want to bring it out and talk about it. Is music, or what you listen to in the studio, is it for inspiration? Or is it for emotion, emotive, like how, in other words, if you are in a mood, like a particular mood, do you pick music that goes with that mood? Or do you pick music that can transform you into a different mood that you can use for working? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense? Judith, you are muted. Judith, you're muted. And
Mhm.
No, I'm not. The last piece was my contribution. That was Rufus Wainwright singing Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah.
Nice.
And I think probably there have been about 80 people that I know of who have covered that song. And I want a CD set with each one of them on the CD, because every single cover I've heard has sent me somewhere spectacular. And I will often go down into my studio and say, Alexa, play Hallelujah. And that will get me, that gets my brain someplace glorious. And then when that is over, she will take me somewhere else. And music is so important to me in my studio. I cannot work in silence, and I don't want to listen to the news. I mean, there's too much of that as it is. But I need that input I need something glorious to lift me up to where I can create.
That's a nice way of putting it, to lift you up where you can create. So you definitely use it as actually as both inspiration and emotive.
Yeah.
You use it to put you in the mood to create, but you also use it to match where you are. So Kezra, my love, I haven't heard from you tonight. What are you thinking? What goes on in your studio?
It's a toss up in my studio. I have a really old radio CD player, tape player, and the CD player doesn't work anymore. Just a little crushing, but so that limits what I can listen to. So I actually do listen to NPR, but try not to listen like the parts that are not the news, like, you know, the interviews and the stories and stuff. I very much enjoy. And sometimes I'll go to WYPR or whatever that plays just classical, but sometimes it gets too intense and I'm just like, make it stop. And so I turn it off completely, because quiet is okay for me. When I would listen to CDs, sometimes I would realize that it was quiet and it had been quiet for some time, and I'd listen to the full CD and not notice that it stopped. So I guess I don't need the music, but I do enjoy listening to music, and it can be whatever. Soft and chill, or jazz, or show tunes, or whatever. I don't know. I'm very flexible in the studio. Just my technology is not as flexible.
So for you, it sounds like it's more background stuff, that
Yeah.
it's not in your head. Like for Julia, it's more just a background, sort of the noise or the sound of the words or whatever, but not necessarily taking in what they say or focusing on that, but it's just something going on while you are painting.
So, yeah. So I mean, very often, but you know, if it's a good program on NPR, then I'm very engaged in that. I have paper underneath my painting, on top of my painting table, but underneath my paintings, and it's covered with notes that I'm taking from whatever I'm hearing on NPR, or you know, but if I'm like, I don't know, if I'm listening to the second half of Hamilton, like I get all teared up, and then I can't paint because I can't see because there's this salty discharge. So that's, I mean, as much as I love emotive things, I mean, it does sort of get in the way of like painting if you try to see and you can't because you're crying.
Mhm. Well, that just, I mean, that to me brings up a concept of music as distraction in a way, because we were talking earlier about the fact that, you know, certain music you put on and you just have to dance. So you can't play that music while you're working. And, you know, Hamilton, you're going to just bawl like a baby. And, or, you know, for me, there's several ones like Pippin or whatever, where I just have to stop and sing along, you know, and build out while I'm working. So can music actually be music, or whatever you listen to, can it actually be a distraction? Because I know, you know, a couple of you said that you like quiet or don't mind the quiet. So what about music as distraction?
I think, well, as I said before, sometimes I have to take a break when a good song comes up that I have to dance to or sing along with. There are certain groups that come on, and a couple of Pandora stations I have, Mammoose and the Waylon Jennies, that I have to harmonize with. I just have to. I can't not, you know. And it's so much fun, and And it's good for me because when I start painting, it's like being in a dark room. Back when I was doing darkroom work years ago, you'll just be in there for hours. You used to call me the creature from the Black Lagoon. I just go down there, and just like 5 hours later, what? I should eat something. So it is a distraction sometimes, but it's a welcome distraction for me because I'll just get completely cramped up. I'll sit there for hours and I'll be painting, and I'll get up and I'll feel like I'm 80 years old for the first 30 seconds because so for me it's a good distraction. Just saying.
Oh, Virginia,
I
you're mute.
like salty discharge too, by the way, Catherine.
Yes, good distraction. Yes. Yeah, I think it's time. You want to do another group of songs?
Sure.
And then
Let's
I've
do
got
another group of songs.
I want to know who submitted which songs though. Can you
Okay.
announce that? Can you play them?
Yes. Nobody minds that, right? I can do that for at least the rest of them.
I'm not embarrassed.
I will say that I submitted the next one. So here we go.
I'm a
there's
TurboTax
Joshua
live
Hannah. I'm
expert,
sorry.
ready to assess even the most unique
think that
tax
would happen.
situations.
Something better for myself.
I was starting to get comments from well-meaning.
I'm sorry, there's 2 ads. Okay, now we're back.
Ojos de sol, piel de madera, con un corazón temblando por ella. Palabras sinceras y su alma viaja así. Cantando como un pajarillo.
Okay. And the next one was submitted by Caroline.
I couldn't not turn my love when it counted. But I'm singing like a bird about it now.
Like a bird.
I couldn't whisper when you needed it shouted. But I'm singing like a bird about it now. The birds hung above, but never would form. Like a cry at the final breath that is drawn.
Okay. And then this last one for now was submitted by Gary. I wasn't sure what part of the piece to play, so I played the very beginning of what I found on YouTube.
What was that?
Oh, screen.
Let me explain. That was rock. That was Rachmaninoff. I had first heard the name Rachmaninoff as a boy watching a movie called The 7-Year Itch with Marilyn Monroe and Tom Ewell. He was living downstairs in a New York apartment, and she was upstairs in the middle of summer, keeping her panties in the fridge. And he would fantasize about seducing her. And he, during those scenes of seduction, he would play Rachmaninoff music. And it wasn't until years later, 1976, I was driving on the freeway and I heard a Rachmaninoff full song. And I was so taken back by its beauty, I had to pull over and stop in the middle of it. It was probably at night, I think. And I listened to it. It was incredible. And I never forgot that music.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I was so excited
Yeah.
by the emails I got that included stories like that. That was very fun.
Mhm.
Learning a little more about you guys.
Cool. Yeah. The selection that I did, that's Hosier, who is an Irish a singer-songwriter whose work I really love, because it's very tuneful, and he does interesting things with music. There was one on earlier today that's written in 5/8. You know, so there's 5 beats to measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little different. It just jostles your mind a little bit, but he's very interesting with his words. You know, he's a real poet, and it's that kind of stuff wakes me up a little bit. It isn't, you know, the same old stuff that you hear again and again. It's creative thinking, and he's a little twisted, which is fun too. I mean, why not? You only live once, right? Anyway, and that particular song is about a shrike, which is a type of bird that takes its prey, its little bugs and small animals and things, and sticks it in on thorns in hedges, and that's how it eats it off the thorns after it impales it on the thorns. So it's kind of creepy, but kind of really cool too. But it's about a relationship. I don't know. It's very complicated.
Is that a Bahrain that he was playing with it? Was that the drum, the Irish drum that they, because
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Could be.
I took a
Paint
class.
a shrike.
Shrike, yeah.
Yes. Well, and that brings up another thing. How many of you use music to wake you up when you get into the studio? I mean, I know for me that that if my brain is sort of in the Hildegard von Bingen mode when I go to the studio, I need something with a really strong beat to get me. It helps, the rhythm helps my whole body get going and get focused. And I'm wondering if anybody else has noticed that.
Sure.
Absolutely. Oh, good. Kesra too. I'm not alone. All right. So another question I have, and Phyllis, you talked about this a little bit with your talk at the beginning, is the connection between music and art when music is created because of art or art is created because of music. And I'm wondering, and I'll share two things. One is that I saw today in the New York Times that there's, I think it was the New York Times, that there is an article about, no, it wasn't in the Times. I saw it on Facebook. There was an article about these guys who have created sound from spider webs, that they have gone in and basically, honestly, I don't know how they've done it. It's magic. But that idea of, you know, sort of blows your mind that, you know, you can go in and actually assign a note to something and make music out of something that is an object like a spider web. They're not like playing the spider web, they're assigning the music to it. And it's pretty
I
creepy.
can play the sound.
Can you?
I think so. I found it right here and I'm still connected.
Awesome.
Oh, that is scary. Spiderweb sonification. Spooky. Sorry, I was very curious.
So that, you know, that blew my mind today. That idea of creating music from, you know, you could almost say a spider web is artwork. I mean, it's their creativity. But the other thing that I thought of on the other end of it was that my brother is a folk musician, and on his first album, he asked me to do the artwork for the album cover. And so I was working in polymer clay. So I did this really, and I wish I could find it. Maybe I'll look for it and post it sometime or send it around. But it's just sort of an abstract, you know, thing of with polymer clay that I did. And he took a photo of it, and it is on the outside of his album. So there's that kind of connection between art and music too. So are there any other ways of connecting with art and music that you do? Have you created a piece of music, piece of art specifically for a piece of music, or
Yes.
that kind of thing?
Yes, a former student of mine is John and Debbie Sosnowski, do the Renaissance festivals. They're jewelers. And John's also a musician. I think he's got about 6, 7 CDs under his belt. And at one time, we were all part of an installation group. And we did like the John Waters hair ball. John got us, we installed this whole space during John's hair ball. We were doing a lot of that kind of stuff. So John Synesthesia asked the group of us to do a painting. We had a 12 by 8 foot horizontal canvas. There were maybe 6, 7 of us painting at the same time to a piece, an original composition. And John got the local TV station to film it. It's called the Sazra Sound Project. We had never heard the music before. We knew how big the space was. We knew we would all be using acrylic paints, and we had been working together before. So we all listened to the music play through the first time, and then everybody started painting. And I realized several things. First of all, that the dynamic of this many artists working together, at first everybody's working in their own spaces. And all of a sudden, I got this blaze of orange. And diagonal is an action, orange is an action color. I took a big brush and I made a huge sweeping gesture diagonally across the entire canvas through everybody else's spots, shy as I am. And John was electrified by this. He's like, stopped the music for a little bit and said, "Why did you put orange there?" I said, "I heard it. I'm hearing orange in this music." And as it happened, the main note was A above middle C. And apparently that vibrates to the frequency of orange, which is an international safety color. So he was very excited when the thematic note for the music came out, and at least my color, and everybody else started responding in larger gestures. It was a really interesting project.
Yeah.
It may be on YouTube, Sazra Sound Project. He posted it not long ago on Facebook, remembering the experience that we had painting to his music.
That's cool. That's very cool. Kezra, did you have something you wanted to add? Were you?
Yeah, I mean, two short things. One is I took a color study class in college, and one of our assignments was to illustrate a song with our what we bought for our class was a box full of silk screened pages that were like, I don't know, 6 inches by 9 inches, and like a stack of them. And so we could use those colors and just illustrate a song, which was really, you know, non-representational, but yeah, make it how it made you feel, or colors, or yeah, it was very cool. So I was thinking about that. And then the other thing is, shoot, and some of you guys were there. There was an artist who did a piece, a really giant white chalk pastel piece at Hood College. Judith, you were there with me. It was on that huge black paper.
Judith, I think you're muted.
Judith, you're muted.
But he did this whole story of the sinking of of humans over the side of ships. Oh God, it was like 50 feet wide and like a dozen feet high. It was kind of outstanding and amazing, but he did it to music.
Wow.
And there was an audience and we watched, and it was awesome.
Joseph Norman.
Thank you.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, one of my favorite musicals was totally inspired by a painting. And you all know.
Sunday in the Park with George.
Sunday in the Park. Yeah, I saw that actually with Mandy Patinkin and yeah.
Yeah, Bernadette Peters.
That Peters, yeah.
I didn't see it, but I knew she was in it.
Did too, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. That's cool. That's cool. Phyllis, I think you told me that you actually like listening to podcasts and stuff, that you are more of a thinker while you work, like needing
Oh, I
that.
can't claim that I'm thinking, but that would be going too far. But I find music a little too stimulating for some reason. But I did have an epiphany about this because I normally listen to podcasts or like audio books that are nonfiction, because I save my reading time for fiction. But I did listen to a novel recently, and I have a feeling that it was so beautiful and tragic and melancholy that I think it really did. I mean, I can't say how much it affected what I was doing, but it certainly set a spell. So I think I'm going to listen to more literature
Interesting.
when I work. But I also wanted to find out, Caitlin and Lauren haven't said anything, and it's so nice to have a guest, and Caitlin's always so quiet. I was wondering if they wanted to chip in.
Yeah.
Hello?
Caitlin, Lauren? Caitlin?
Hi.
Oh, there you are.
I submitted 2 songs, but I got on late because I had to fix an artwork at a show that I'm in, and then I was driving. So I'm not sure if they already got played.
I haven't played
Julia, do you know?
your song yet. I only chose 1 song for each person, but I have not played your song yet.
That's fine. Can I talk when my song comes on?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Lauren, do you want to add anything? She may not be there. All right, Ezra had to leave. Why don't you go ahead and play the last 3? Before you do, let me just say that I know mine's in the last group too, and it was hard for me to pick one because I have 2 different studios, and one is more like Thomas's, where loud things happen and the acoustics are great, so I can crank things up and nobody can hear me. And the other one is the quiet place, so that's more Yo-Yo Ma cello, Bach cello concerto, or the classical or the new age or whatever. But I grew up with a lot of music, a lot of different music, classical music. My dad was a musician, and obviously my brother's a musician and stuff. So I realized getting ready for this, that I just love music. I love all kinds of music. There are kinds that I don't like, but I just like music. Music is cool. So go ahead, share some.
I have 2 more songs because I just chose one of your songs.
Okay.
The first song is Caitlin submitted it, and this is a song I used to listen to all the time in high school, and it makes me want to dance. Okay, and the last song is Virginia's choice.
The downstairs studio.
The downstairs studio.
Yes.
This music video is pretty weird. Sorry. I get to watch the music video while I'm playing these songs, and They're very entertaining.
I always, that is the one song on that Peter Gabriel album that I skip over because I just can't watch the monkey get hurt. I just can't do it.
Oh.
I
didn't get to that part of the video.
I like the basic the sound of that song, but you listen to the words, it's just like I can't deal with it.
Oh, see, I don't listen to words.
Yeah, it's about vivisection.
Oh,
Oh,
I just listen to the beat of it. Had I known that, I probably
the
wouldn't.
more you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't listen to it. Caitlin, what did you have to say about your piece? You have to unmute.
Okay, so there's that.
Sorry. I don't really have anything to say. I mean, I love music just like Virginia. I listen to all types of music, classical. I love oldies. I love Wanda Jackson. She's like my jam. But I like a lot of folk. I like a lot of bluegrass. I like musicals. So I love music, obviously. I tend to start out listening to music that I know the words to and like singing, and then it devolves into just like dancing with my birds and painting at the same time. And that's pretty much how I roll until I stop.
Cool. We're getting to the end. I just wanted to ask, because I know that a couple of people have mentioned technology and stuff. Hang on a second, Linda.
Okay.
And I have to say, for me, Spotify has been such a great thing. I know, Caroline, you talked about Pandora, but you know, either one of those, because you can actually find some pretty obscure stuff on those things. And I have been like hitting, you know, like an artist that I know one or two songs of, and then hearing much more about them, or people who are like them, or and I've been doing a lot of listening to more contemporary music to go along with my works that I'm doing on racism. So hearing more about works from the African American community and Hispanic community. So Linda, what did you have to say?
A point that no one has made yet, because I'm very fortunate for the last 27 years to be meeting all the musicians that come to Common Ground on the Hill, and many of them are dear friends. Guy Davis, Scott Ainsley, Vala Liniger, Robert McLaughlin, Tuvin Throat Singer. And when I play, I have CDs from everybody. And when I play that music, it creates a sense of community. I feel like I belong. I am confident. I'm surrounded with care and creativity. So some of the music is just like a big hug, because these people are so familiar to me. And when I listen to the music, it's like being with them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that actually says a lot about, you know, when we were listening to different pieces of music tonight, I was looking at people's reactions, and everybody had, you know, sort of a smile or you know, a movement or whatever. And even though we're on the screen together, you know, and some of us might little, there's still the sort of the sense of community, that we were all listening to the same music together and reacting to the same piece of music. And I think that is a very strong connection when it comes to music. Is there anything else that anybody wants to add before we?
Yeah, at the beginning, Phyllis was talking about synesthesia. I have two relatives that have synesthesia. I have a cousin once removed, my cousin Tim's daughter, and she's an illustrator in England. She's English. And she, her father, cousin Tim, didn't know that she had synesthesia until she was, I don't know, a young teenager or something. And they were listening to a record, and they were listening to different songs on it. And Emily said, "I like the blue one." And Tim said, "You like the blue one? What are you talking about? You know, the song, it's mostly blue, you know." And she's like, "What are you?" Anyway, so that's when they figured that out. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I can't imagine what that would be like to associate sound with colors. I think that would be really wild. My Uncle Loomis has the kind of synesthesia where when he's reading, different letters are different colors. You know, he was saying, "Oh yeah, the R's are red and B's are clear and A is of course black." And I'm like, "Of course." Sure. You know, it's kind of interesting. But my daughter, I mean the cousin who has it with the sound and the color, I thought was really interesting. Anyway.
I have a friend who insists that every number has its own personality. At least every number from 1 to 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Are there any that are like belligerent? They're aggressive. Like
There are some that don't like each other, and I wish I remembered which they were. There are some that don't like each other.
Wow.
But it works in all kinds of ways.
So you don't want to put the 2 and the 9 together or something like that, because
Something like that.
Oh, I'm fighting words, Missy.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's really the human brain is a really interesting thing. There's a book called, I think, Musicophilia. It's by Oliver Sacks.
Yeah.
And it's about it describes a lot of brain trauma patients and their before and after brains and how they process sound. And it's really fascinating. I mean, some people, there was a guy who's kind of couldn't have cared less about music, and then he had some brain trauma. It was an accident or something, and then he had to compose music. He just had to do it. He had to do it every day,
Yes.
or he'd just go insane. You know, it's like
There
crazy.
There's a man. It's probably a different man because I don't think anything actually traumatic happened to him. But anyway, at some point in his life, lived in LA, had a family, a job. He heard a symphony in his head, and it basically drove him so mad, literally, that he became homeless and abandoned his family, and for like 10 years until he completed writing this symphony. And it's actually quite brilliant. I heard it on NPR, and I heard the interview with him. And then once it was done, took some work, but he was able to get back off the street and return to sanity and normality and sort of. But maybe it was some tragedy in his life or something that's did it. But he literally gave up everything, walked out, and was homeless for years until he was successfully completed it.
Wow.
My daughter is studying music therapy in college. That's her.
Oh, wow. But Julia, I have to get back to your thing about numbers having personalities. You know the riddle. Why is 6 afraid of 7?
7, 8, 9. Yeah, I was gonna make that joke too.
7, 8, 9. Oh.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
7, 8.
And on that note,
On that note.
maybe we should end this, but this was fun. I'm really glad that we had this.
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone,
Thank you, Julia, Virginia.
hey, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phyllis gets kudos for her talk, and Julia gets kudos for her technical savvy, because I couldn't have done all that.
And you get kudos for coming up with the idea and coming up with all the questions and,
Yeah.
yay, Virginia.
All that. Thank you. Thank you. Next month is Caroline. We get to, you and I will sit down and talk before then and figure something fun out.
All righty.
I'm still thinking bird calls. Either something about bird calls that might have to happen, but we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for coming tonight. It was really good to see everyone.